Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Brad Nyers, and I am thrilled to be here today to share with you Accenture's story on our Windows 10 journey. I'm a managing director within Accenture's internal IT organization, and we've been on a very exciting journey over the last couple of years. I'm really looking forward to sharing that with you today. I'm going to start out and give you a little bit of overview on what we do from an IT perspective, tell you about our journey that we've been on with Microsoft. We're going to share a video with you that was produced by Microsoft that really gives you a little bit more insight into where we're headed with Windows 10, why we're moving at the scale and pace that we are. I'm going to shift gears a little bit and talk about our digital worker vision. You know, this is really more than just an operating system update project that we're doing. It's all about transforming our workers into turn them into a digital worker, if you will. We'll talk a little bit about our deployment and migration approach, talk about keys to success, and then we're going to open up the floor. I'm going to invite Tom Bruss and Chris Marino up to the stage, and then we're going to have a Q&A session. The way that's going to work is we're going to ask you to line up behind the mic. We'll do it rapid fire, and between the three of us, I hope that we can answer your questions. You know, Accenture today is, I think we're close to 420,000 people today in 200 cities and in 55 countries. We have 5,000 clients in over 120 countries. As you can imagine, the scale that we have offers us a real challenge in how we deliver our IT services. And we're almost a $33 billion company. Again, we're focused on enabling the digital worker. You know, we have over 415,000 workstations. We're currently at 320,000 Windows 10 users. We've made a significant jump in the last year. We have over almost 100,000 mobile device users, and we're in the process of transitioning to Intune. One of the things that we're very proud of is we are a very large adopter of Skype for Business. We do well over 300 million minutes of conferencing a month. It's how Accenture works. If you're going to meet with Accenture, you're going to use our Skype environment. It's how we meet internally as well. If you look at where our history has been, we've come a long way with Microsoft. We are one of the first large corporations to migrate to Office 365. We have 450,000 mailboxes today and 19,000 SharePoint sites. So we are massive scale, and Microsoft's delivering in an outstanding manner to support our business. We've made great strides with OneDrive over the last few years. We're at 2 petabytes and 780 million files. And one of the areas that we've really focused on is changing the way services get consumed. So you see a very significant number, 3,000 events that get produced a year from our broadcast studio. When you look at the scale of Accenture, we've got a massive network, 120 gigabyte network. But it's important to recognize that as our journey to the cloud has changed, the network topologies had to change. We've had to change the whole structure. So we are in the middle now of transforming to more internet gateways in the offices, routing more and more business traffic over the internet. We are a large consumer, as you can imagine, of enterprise data capabilities. Our enterprise data warehouse is over 6 terabytes. We are a great example of the art of what's possible with the cloud. We have over 7,600 VMs running in the cloud, the public cloud today. 78% of our business applications are actually supported in the public cloud. So our transformation journey has taken us a long way. We're not done. You can see on the slide here that we plan on being at 90% in 2018. Next thing I'm going to do is we've got a video that I'd like to share with you. It really puts everything that we're doing in context.
Accenture's mission is to drive digital transformation for our clients. We operate across industry, across the globe, In an era of massive acceleration in technology, we have over 400,000 people. I've got to be able to empower that workforce and that capability at least as much as we are doing for our clients. Accenture is a beacon for our clients, a beacon for transformation.
Not only do we enable our people with the latest technology, we're also setting ourselves up to be a reference for the art of what's possible with Microsoft. That's the big value for us. It's evergreen, and it's demonstrating to our clients that we can be a market leader in adoption of Microsoft technology.
The workforce has changed. We are 75% millennial. I see in that workforce a completely different set of requirements and demands on me to deliver a completely different set of services. We're in the cloud and we have services that need to be sticky, real-time, and engage our customers, engage our people.
We are the world's largest consumer of Windows 10. We'll hit 300,000 within a not-so-distant future, and we'll be at 400,000 next year.
I'm enjoying the evolution of security in the Microsoft proposition. I see that maturity with Windows 10 and EMS, managing the identity of the user, differentiating between enterprise and between personal use at the application and the data level. We can operate in both a mobile way and a secure way, but actually not disrupting the user experience at the same time. Office 365 and Windows 10 are at the heart of a digital worker proposition, which is really speeding up our workforce. The value in today's ecosystem is huge. I can deliver services that enable the mobile, fully deployed global workforce. I can keep them current. I can keep them connected. At Accenture, we're excited about the future. We believe we're at the very leading edge of keeping both ourselves and our clients totally relevant, totally secure, and totally pivoted into the new digital world.
We've been on quite a journey over the last couple of years, and we're very proud of what we've achieved, as you can imagine. I'm going to switch gears a little bit and talk about what we mean by a digital worker. We are a people-based business, and the more productive we make our people, the better off our business is going to be and benefit. So, as we plan the initiatives and the work that we launch and the project work, we generally always have where we are and where we want to be. And part of our digital worker vision is to enable our people to be more productive. We see the browser becoming more and more the landing zone for the way our people work. We talked about the cloud already. We want to be mostly in the cloud. We want people to work cloud first. We want people to open from and save directly to OneDrive. We want our people to have access to their data from any device, regardless of where they're working from. The data needs to be relevant. We want to take advantage of the newer capabilities, filter out the noise. We want to enable our people to focus only on the job at hand and not have all this external noise that's taking away from their abilities. We want to be digital. It's an often overused term, but when we say digital, we want our people to fully interact in a digital manner with the systems. We want frictionless applications so that people can quickly collaborate and deliver outstanding client work. We also want people to work in a purposeful way. We don't want a lot of noise interacting with our people. We want things filtered out. We want things that require immediate action to be at the top of their inbox. So it's all about being maximizing your productivity. One of the things that we're starting to see, and I know some of the demos you've seen a lot of natural language support. Traditionally, English language has been a requirement to work at Accenture, and with the newer capabilities, the possibilities are endless from a language perspective for people being able to work in their native tongue. And that's something that really interests us because it opens up a whole nother user population and employee possibility. And finally, we need to be collaborative. There's really no reason to go into an office the way that we've built our environment unless you want to collaborate. So we don't work in an office anymore. You come into an office to collaborate and work with your peers. A lot different than a lot of people would typically do in a traditional work way. Again, I want to share a little bit more detail about I've talked about 320,000 Windows 10 users. We've done it in two ways. We've done it with new PCs, 240,000, and we've implemented an in-place upgrade process, and we've done 80,000. That 80,000 upgrade count has all been user-initiated and done in a self-service fashion. Talked a little bit about OneDrive. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in detail on how we've gotten to 2 petabytes, because it's a unique way that we've brought Windows 10, Office 365 Pro Plus, and OneDrive together. As I mentioned, we're bringing 3 capabilities together in our deployment. If you're going to touch the end user device, you need to provide as little interruption from a business standpoint as possible. So we felt it was an opportune time to modernize the desktop. So we're Windows 10, current branch for business, Office 365 Pro Plus, and OneDrive for business. It's very important to maximize our people's productivity and minimize interruption as much as possible. I want to talk a little bit about OneDrive. I've talked a little bit about being cloud first, but if you can imagine, adopters of OneDrive can actually get a new PC replacement without a whole lot of effort because their data's in the cloud. You can give them a new device, they can authenticate, they can be back productive. So enabling new business processes has really benefited us significantly. Why Windows 10? Obviously there's the Windows 7 end-of-life date of January of 2020. You obviously have to manage towards that, but there's a lot of benefits from an end-user perspective that we believe that we're receiving significant value now and not waiting till the end of life. The ability to do in-place upgrades, we've implemented that process and it's been very smooth. We've got a tool that we've developed that I'll talk a little bit more about in a minute. We've moved to a simplified imaging process, so we don't build an image anymore. We layer on from the factory our security tools and our productivity pack, which includes Office Pro Plus. So, less time to touch, big value provider to our technical support organization. We have a strong desire to get to direct shipping. When you hear about autopilot and some of the new features, there's a lot of exciting things coming up that will really enable us to take advantage of in a much quicker fashion than we would have been able to if we were still on the older platforms. And the whole servicing model, I know it's very painful to look at updates coming every 6 months, but you have to put yourselves in the shoes of our end user community. We're 75% millennials. Millennials have a tendency to read about it today, they expect it today. So the ability to shorten the window and being able to get them the tools that they desire to have in a much faster time frame, it's very important from an end user enablement perspective. And finally, I think everybody's aware of the security benefits of the architecture within Windows 10. Very significant for us in protecting our client data. Excuse me. So let's switch gears now and let's talk about deployment and migration. So we are deploying in a current branch for business model. We started with new machines in April of 2016, and we introduced the in-place upgrade in July of 2016. From an overall application testing perspective, we tested 800 applications, and 131 required remediation. I will tell you that most of the remediations in our environment were more on the Office front than the Win32 front. We have a handful of security products that obviously had to be remediated because of the deep hooks into the operating system. But other than that, it's been a fairly smooth transition into Windows 10 because of our application architecture is primarily internet browser facing. And part of the entire model, of course, we had to deal with enabling support, service desk, all of our local tech support people. And we do plan on completing this fiscal year, or this calendar year, excuse me. The Pro Plus migration, to us, traditionally, we had an office upgrade project, a lot of money, the whole evergreen model of being in sync with the Windows releases is really beneficial to us. I don't want to have to deal with any large projects anymore. It's going to come twice a year. We're going to roll them out in a servicing model, and the people are going to have the latest features and functions that they desire to have. I think this whole model, I often say, in the cloud, you have to become comfortable being uncomfortable. I think that's something that you will learn over time as you begin to consume more and more services in the cloud. There's a trust factor that needs to be there, but we're running the servicing model today. It's servicing us well. It works, and I would encourage everybody as they plan to not get stuck in the trap of going from 7 to 8.1 to avoid the 10 upgrade. I would definitely recommend to stay away from LTSB. I view that as a kind of a death spiral and just delaying the pain later. I've talked a lot about OneDrive. OneDrive is a mechanism that we have used intentionally to help the upgrade process. We buy 128 gig SSD laptops, and we intentionally buy small disks because we don't want a lot of business data on the local disk. So we've been going down the OneDrive journey for almost 3 years now. But when you look at the opportunity to upgrade to Windows 10, there's a lot of users that may not have required free space to do the upgrade. So we've built the tooling that helps people migrate their data to the cloud, frees up the space, and lets them go ahead and do the upgrade. I think the most important part is you can't view Windows 10 in just a silo. You have to take a look at the entire suite and implement the things that provide the most value to you. I mentioned a tool that we developed. I want to spend a little bit of time on this because it's a good example of how a little bit of development work can create a fairly robust process. So we developed a tool called the Readiness Checker. This tool is pushed out silently across our infrastructure, and it evaluates a machine on whether it's ready for the Windows 10 upgrade or not. So it's going to check for, is there adequate disk space? Are all the security tools at the proper version levels? The tool will tell us who's ready, who has a machine that's ready. Those people that are ready are automatically notified via an email that you're ready. At the user's choice, they click a link, they download the IPU package from OneDrive, and then do the installation, and it's all end-user driven. For people that fail the readiness checker, we generate remediation lists, areas that they failed. We send end-user communication to them, telling them, you're short on disk space to do a Windows 10 upgrade. We then point those individuals to videos and other documents that explain how to use selective sync to migrate files to the cloud. So that the process is all integrated and automated, because at our scale, it would be very difficult to do this on a one-by-one basis. The deployment timeline is interesting. We have an approach that we developed called the fast lane, which friends and family of our IT organization are often invited to be earlier adopters of the technology. This gives us the ability to try testing it a little bit different way. We were actually evaluating whether it meets the needs much before you can even complete all of application testing. So if you look at where we came from, we introduced, in the April timeframe, I mentioned new PCs getting it. Then we turned around in the July timeframe of last year and introduced the in-place upgrade. Focusing on the servicing model early in your project is critical, because what you're going to discover, you're going to have SCCM updates to worry about. You're going to have network infrastructure to deal with because of the size of the packages that you're going to be moving around. It's much larger than you traditionally have to. You're also going to have third-party products in your base image that need to be remediated in order to support Windows 10. So a lot of the security tools, as you can imagine, fall into that category where they're really going to need to be remediated, and they're going to have to stay remediated throughout the entire servicing model. So any third-party products in your base system, you're going to have to develop that relationship with those vendors and make sure that they're doing insider ring testing, making sure that their tooling stays current with the servicing model. And finally, segmenting the user population into something that's more manageable is an approach that I think is really important. If you're a manufacturer, you may have equipment sitting on the shop floor that's running old software, but you have other user groups of population that you very well may focus on first. I encourage everybody to get started. You can't finish it if you don't start. So, getting the ball rolling early is very important. I'm going to talk about keys to a successful implementation. One of the things that we traditionally do very well is bring a disciplined PMO or project management approach to things. Creating well-defined metrics, measurements, making sure that you're tracking on time. We have a central governance model within Accenture. We have a steering committee that's made up of all the COOs of the different business units. And when we approve a project, we fundamentally have buy-in from the business that we're going to do it. So we don't have a lot of headwind as we transform into a digital worker because the top leadership has already bought into our overall strategy. Rigorous change management and adoption is absolutely critical, as you can imagine. Providing more than one way to communicate to the user base. So email, we have social media tools that we've developed. Newsletters, our CIO, Andrew Wilson, has a video show that he can promote the efforts that we're currently executing, and it works very well to get connected to the overall user population. And your approach has to deal with the Windows 7 end of life. It's a date that's set in stone, and making sure that you're making progress to having 0 by January of 2020 is important. Line of business application testing is probably one of the most common questions that I get asked about. And it's a challenge. We're fortunate that our business applications are all browser-facing, very little line of business applications in our environment, which helped us get to the speed and scale that we've received today. And again, the servicing model is something that you really need to address early on in the project life cycle because you're going to be doing SCCM updates much faster and quicker than you've ever done. You also need to look at and understand the implications of pushing 2 to 4 gig packages out over the network twice a year. Those are the things that I think you really need to consider from an overall startup from a program standpoint. I mentioned metrics and reporting. I included some real reports that we use to track our progress. And one of the things I'll point out, we started going into our fiscal year 17 with 70,000 Windows 10 users, and we finished at 313,000. So we hit massive scale within the last 12 months to hit the 320,000 number. So having the proper guidance, are we tracking the weekly reports that go to Andrew, getting encouragement from him to go faster and faster. A lot of that has really helped us get the right mentality and mindset out into the field as we roll out this capability. We also set targets by different geographies, and we measure those parts of the organization to ensure that they're focused on delivering to the plan. And finally, you've got to track the servicing model. You've got 1511 to 1607. You've got all these moving parts, and you need to make sure that you stay within the guide rails of supportability in the servicing model. So that's very, very important to make sure that you've got the right tracking mechanisms in place and you're making the proper progress. I've mentioned change and adoption, and this is an area that we hit our users from multiple angles. Emails the old way, company-wide communications. We have a social media application called The Circle, where we create discussion groups that let our end users communicate and collaborate about their Windows upgrade experience. So there's a lot of interaction happening amongst our user community that helps generate the excitement as we reach massive scale. And again, Andrew, our CIO, does an internal IT broadcast, which is a very interesting medium to get people excited about what we're doing, why we're doing it, and gets the people revved up and focused on that. When you look at the overall keys to success, I can't emphasize enough the importance of getting the servicing model down at the beginning. Because what's going to happen is you will have to go through a servicing refresh before you're done with your implementation project. So you have to be prepared for that next wave while you're still concerned about getting everybody upgraded. And that's a very interesting challenge. Again, you've got to focus on the network, you've got to focus on SCCM and the other tooling needed in order to do those upgrades in a timely fashion so that you stay in a supported state. One of the things that we did that's really benefited us is the servicing model is incorporated into our traditional patching process. So from an end user standpoint, those servicing updates take longer, but they're being presented to them in a manner that they're very consistent with on a regular update process. So there's nothing new with the servicing model. We tell them it's coming. We tell them roughly how long it's going to take them. So they're informed that when it happens and they say upgrade, that it takes an hour or whatever the time frame that it takes. So the whole notion here is make sure the users are aware of what's going to happen. Then when it happens, they're not surprised that they need to do it in downtime and when they don't have meetings coming up. One of the things that's kind of caught us off guard is there's been a number of SCCM updates that are needed to take advantage of new capabilities. So the mindset of doing that, maybe once every 2 years or so, you're going to find yourself doing updates in a much more frequent pattern. And staying current is going to unlock a lot of the new capabilities. So that's very important to recognize that, staff accordingly, and make sure that you stay on top of that. I've talked about the third-party tools, and I think this is an area where we have had a number of vendors that we have to work very closely with. I would say that they're not fully subscribed to the servicing model, which really becomes a threat to the servicing model and being able to stay current. So working with those third parties to make sure that they are testing on the insider ring, making sure that their tooling supports the release schedule by Microsoft. I mentioned segmenting the users. I can't emphasize enough to go after the low-hanging fruit first, identify the user population that would be impacted the least should you run into problems so that you can learn early on before you impact the business. One of the things that it's kind of a little bit newer requirement is to engage legal and data privacy early. We've had to go through 69 countries and get approval from a data privacy standpoint to proceed. The more countries you do business in, the more you're going to have to go after and be prepared to have those discussions about telemetry levels and other details about the information that you're collecting at the telemetry level that you choose. It's very important early, get the countries engaged, begin the discussion, get their approval, so that the more countries you have on board earlier, it gives you the ability to distribute the upgrades to a broader audience. If you get limited to the US, you very well may box yourself in a corner and not be able to make as much progress as quickly as you would like. I've talked about the network. You've got to be ready for the updates and the size of packages that you're going to be moving around. And finally, this point is probably a little less relevant with some of the new autopilot announcements and things, but going to Windows 10 provides you the opportunity to re-engineer how you're distributing the operating system on your new PCs. We're taking a clean image from our suppliers, layering on security tools, productivity tools, but if you think about the art of what's possible that's coming down the line now, that whole direct ship model It really looks good from an IT perspective. Zero touch, direct ship, the user authenticates, the system knows that who they are and what company they're with, and auto provisioning. Take advantage of that capability now because it'll help you pay for the effort as you deploy. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to ask two of my colleagues, Tom Bruss and Chris Marino, to come up to the screen. We're going to do a rapid-fire Q&A session. I'm going to let them introduce themselves once we get the mic here. And then, happy to take any questions that you might have as it relates to Windows 10. So you guys are welcome to step up to the microphone there so that we can record the question and the answer. So have at it.
So one thing that I didn't hear you talk about that we've heard in the past is you really need to do a lot of user education and classes when you change operating systems because you have to teach the users how to use the new operating system. Given that you're rolling out so much Windows 10, how did you find that experience for the users when they got Windows 10 and they had Windows 7 beforehand? And did you have to do all that training, or are we in a new world where you don't have to do that?
Yeah, I'll take a stab at it first, and I'll let you guys speak up. Our end user training has been somewhat minimal. We do point our end users to the Microsoft collateral, on the user experience and some of the videos that they have. I would say, Joseph, that we're in a new era where, at least in our world, the user population's fairly sophisticated. They can take on more change than what some companies might be able to deliver to. So in our world, we did not have to do a whole lot of user education.
Hi, Brad. I think that's absolutely right. By the way, my name's Tom Bruss. I actually work for Brad, so please be kind. And I have responsibility for a lot of our workplace technology, including Windows 10, Office 365, and Skype. And I think, I would echo Brad's comments. I've heard a lot over the last couple of days about some of the Microsoft at Work toolkits that are publicly available, some great videos online. We actually came to the conclusion, we've got some great materials ourselves. Let's not reinvent the wheel from a training perspective, because there's some great publicly available materials that people can consume, and I think they want to consume it in more of a in small bits here and there at point-in-time type need. We really didn't have much of a need for classes. There weren't a lot of people in our organization that want to come into the office and sit there for an hour and go through a class. So we tried to reuse as much as possible and make it as easy to consume as possible.
I'm Chris Marino. I'm the workstation engineer responsible for most of the development and quite a bit of the training materials that were made available to our friends and family pilot users. So one thing is really important from my perspective was to get your technicians involved. So, whoever's doing your development, they're going to work with friends and family is going to be your local tech support. You want to get them involved in these pilots so that they can help you find the issues. But at the same time, they're learning something. You can pass and convey on information so that they can teach the users as, people are starting to upgrade. So really important to get those people involved as well.
Any other questions?
Sure.
And whether that required admin rights for them to run it, or how that all works.
Yeah, so question was the OneDrive implementation that we are using. So this is a two-phased approach. The first thing is the application that we developed, which is in-house, called the Readiness Checker. It's actually in two pieces. One is the silent version, so it goes out and it identifies if a user is able to upgrade. So what we don't want is we don't want users to go through and download a full package just to go through the installation and roll back. So this is what the Readiness Checker is going to do. It's going to check to see if you meet the requirements before you even go through any downloads. Then the second piece to that is once that is confirmed and that user gets the information or gets an email back saying, hey, you can upgrade, it's going to provide a link into OneDrive. They would go to OneDrive, download the package, and what it's going to actually do is just going to go out, download the content, and start the installation. we developed this around the Microsoft Deployment Toolkit. So this is a Microsoft tool set that we've leveraged. We're just looking for some applications that we might have to upgrade as part of the in-place upgrade. And then from that, Windows setup takes place and upgrades the operating system.
Does it execute a task sequence then? Is that what it's doing?
Yes, it's MDT task sequences. I've customized quite a bit of the deployment so that it's automated quite a bit. We're leveraging web services to do some background checks, get some information to go through the deployment.
App compatibility. So you mentioned most of your applications are web-based, right? But they're not all web-based. So talk to us about your challenges around getting that process up and running, and really what I would consider the biggest challenge, the organizational alignment, right? So that people are doing what they're supposed to be doing in the timelines so that you can, kind of stay within your 18-month deployment cycle for the feature updates.
Yeah, so really it's third-party applications. Usually something, some of you might consume third-party apps like we've invested in as well. Antivirus solutions, maybe other applications that you're using for core apps. For those applications, we have seen some issues with servicing. As you're going from one version to a next version, or from 7 to 10, some of those applications aren't there. So it's important, as they mentioned earlier, right, as Brad mentioned earlier, to get the servicing option discussions taken care of first, because what that's going to do is going to help you identify those apps, okay? And then from there, you're going to have, for us, we have a Windows Servicing Council. What the job of that is to ensure that those application owners, the people who own those components, are working with the vendors, and we're trying to come up with the solutions early enough so that we can roll out the next version of the operating system. So I will say that it's very important to work with those third-party vendors to get those apps ready.
Yeah, and I'd also add, I think it was important to have a good application inventory. So we have a complete inventory there and owners identified for every application, browser-based or otherwise, in our environment. And so, as we started to charge forward with Windows 10, we could communicate to those owners and say, this is coming. Give us a quick, simple yes or no as to whether or not you're compatible or not, and if not, what do you need to remediate? So we could start communicating to those groups and understanding, those app owners, and understanding which groups were going to be more towards the tail end of deployment. As Brad said in the presentation, go for the low-hanging fruit first. We know that there's a large portion of people that they're just using the browser-based stuff, and they were going to be fine. So let's focus on them, get some momentum rolling, and then put some of those applications that are going to give us a harder time towards the end of the deployment.
Now, how did you communicate all of that? Was that just through email? Are you ready? You're not ready? Do you have a portal where you track all of it so that you can have like a dashboard, green, red, yellow, whatever the case may be? I can't see you doing that via email, right?
Right. For the application owners that are part of that inventory, it's all part of a database. And they're used to, as part of that database and being the owners, getting surveys for the 10 other things that we're doing at any one point in time that they need to make sure their application is readiness for. And then we also have some councils, a stay current council we call it, where people need to come and tell us for these 5 things that they're waiting for, whether or not their app is ready or not. So that wasn't through email. It is formally tracked through a database. In terms of we didn't take the traditional email approach for the user base and such. For the owners, it's more structured.
So was that an internally developed tool that you built associated with that database?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, it's actually called the AIR application inventory repository. And all the notifications and tracking are all automated. So there's scorecarding that comes out of that. So if you've missed your date on your survey, then you show up as red and go after those appropriate people.
Yeah, and that's when you have to show up on those councils and answer. Yep.
So one of the things that traditionally we've done, we've created images for, that most places created images for, is so that they have complete control over the user experience when they get their machine, right? You strip some things out, you add some things in, you script some things so it looks exactly the way you want it to for everybody, exactly the same, right? So I'm hearing about your layering approach with you're taking the image right out of the OEMs. Was there some acceptance level of some differences that will appear for different models, and as well as things that at least people are telling me that they're concerned are going to show up for our users, like the Xbox app and stuff like that for Windows 10. Did you do anything to strip that stuff out?
Yeah, well, I'll start on that one. I mean, I would say from from a traditional imaging perspective or from a customizations perspective, we generally provision a vanilla. We don't necessarily have an image with Windows 10, but everything is vanilla. So there is not a customized sort of add-on configuration, if you will, for different parts of the business. It is, there's the image, there's our security, we call it our compliance package, and this is required by everybody, and then there's what we call our productivity package that we also layer on top, which is the Microsoft Office productivity tools and Skype and things like that. There was a bit of an acceptance, that we're not rolling out 10 different flavors of this, and if there are any customizations that you want to do or parts of the business that they're using, other parts of applications, again, as long as your app is ready, you're welcome to layer on anything you'd like after that. The other thing that keeps it simple as well is the move to OneDrive, so that when people are getting a PC upgrade, we have them put everything in OneDrive up front as well, so that also makes it easy. We don't have to go through a big data migration as well, and it's really cut down the amount of time it takes to give a person a new PC.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to provide some additional info, right? So also on the layering project, the layering packages that we create, those are also based off MDT as well. So if you guys leverage MDT, you can do the customized packages. And what we really wanted to do was kind of get users, really everyone, in the sync of being able to understand that you don't have to go through an imaging process to be successful. We have a productivity package which lays on core applications, and then a compliance package which lays on the applications, if necessary, security products, and does the final configurations, maybe like an Active Directory domain join or something like that, so that you can manage the device. So we broke those up into two different packages. One is based on core, managing the device. The other one is based on productivity. So.
I was mostly thinking not so much about what you add, because adding isn't that hard to do. I'm mostly thinking about, there's a lot of stuff that we take away, a lot of places take away from a vanilla Windows install. Minecraft. Well, just, games are an example.
Did you remove provisioned apps, or did you?
Well, I will say that we have been working with our vendors to create vanilla operating systems. So normally right now you probably, you work with your vendors, you get like a hidden backup drive, you get some of their applications. So sometimes those are the things that you want to remove first, and usually you want to start with something base or something plain, and then you build from there. So working with your vendors, to have that vanilla operating system with, and I will say Office would be, a good base, just the OS and Office, and then your productivity package and compliance package allows you to achieve the same results.
So are you providing a custom image to your
No.
reseller or
No. We're taking what they are providing to us. We're layering on the applications and the security products to manage the device. In the case of someone getting something with a Dell, then they would have that on the on the base image. That's just something that we had to live with early on. But now we are working with those vendors so that they do not provide those applications. The benefit that you will get, right, is that you don't have to install the drivers. Those are already included. You're saving some time not having to re-image. You're only installing an application package, depending on how many apps you have and your compliance, you could be saving some time.
Right, so I got a question. I assume that you migrated, obviously, to Windows 10 Enterprise, but I wonder, if you considered for a while to use Windows 10 Pro, and also, what would be your advice to the companies of a similar size to yours, which decided, in particular, to go to Windows Pro?
Well, I will say, for us, everything comes in from the vendors as Pro. So as part of our process, I've written things in, scripted things in that would automatically upgrade. So there's multiple ways of doing this. Some of the easiest things is creating a provisioning package with the Wicked tool. So there's a pretty good session that Mike Niehaus does. You can always attend that, and he has some things on upgrading to Enterprise. I really can't speak on Pro because we do not leverage that, but I can say that you can script everything within the process, MDT, configuration manager, to take place as part of the provisioning process. There were some things, I believe, in the future for the auto work is that it will automatically do that as well.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's another hurdle, to talk to your OEMs about is, doing that. That's in addition to removing the bloatware, that's sometimes on this, having them do that upgrade to enterprise for you. You get those two pieces done, and then with Azure Active Directory, a person gets a PC, they can log in and start getting our configuration and GPO policies and things like that, and then they can do the rest of the compliance pack and productivity pack downloads on their own.
Hi there. On the OneDrive for Business front, I'm hoping you can shed some guidance on the following. So suppose I'm working with Pepsi and you're working with Coca-Cola. There's confidential documents that we cannot share amongst each other. How do you prohibit your end users from doing that?
Well, that is a fantastic question because currently at the moment we have prohibited our users from doing that because we want to get in place the necessary security controls in order to be able to do that sharing in a secure fashion. So there are things like doing the Office 365 data loss prevention, having that work with with OneDrive and with SharePoint. And there's a few other stipulations from a security organization as well as our data privacy organization, and we're working with them to make sure we have the right controls in place. I think one of the things our security organization has asked for is the ability to to restrict that sharing to certain groups of people. Maybe not everybody in the organization needs to be able to share externally. Maybe it's certain groups, or maybe we want to make it, for example, manager level or higher. So we've been, the controls are now there, and we're working to, with those additional security controls in place, be able to open up that external sharing, in a way that makes both our legal folks and our security folks happy.
Sir, you said this is with Office 365 DLP?
Yes. Yes.
There's one other comment. One other thing is client deliverables are SharePoint stored and not in OneDrive. We provide guidance to our end users, and it's part of our client data protection program to operate securely. So when you're doing client work, you get educated in the proper process and procedures for storing client data. We use SharePoint as the collaboration point for all client deliverables. So that way, if you're assigned to Coke, you don't have access to the Pepsi SharePoint site.
Okay, so a direct question. Did you adopt the two-browser model for browsing? Do you switch to Edge and keep IE for legacy apps, or did you took a different path?
Yeah, good question. Edge is available there for people that want to use it for more modern browsing experience today. We do still have a few, not so much applications, but a few of the security plugins that aren't yet compatible with Edge that we're waiting for before we make it the default browser. So people, it's on there. It's available to anybody that wants to use it, but we've still got a couple of security products that need to catch up before it's the default.
So you use IE at the moment?
Yes. Yep. IE11.
Yeah, you can also, we use enterprise mode lists, so you can set up something on a web server for your enterprise mode list as well to help out with some of the document types that are coming through.
Do you guys do ongoing app testing, like as other builds of Windows 10 come out? Do you make all of your app owners go and certify it for 1703?
Yes, so I was talking earlier about a Windows Servicing Council. I hold a meeting regularly so that we can interface with those app owners, and we go through a pass-fail. If they're failing currently, we need to get a timeline. We need to go through builds, check and see what we need to have finished so that we can move forward with those applications. We don't want an application holding us from being able to get to the next OS version, because as this two releases per year comes up, you're going to find that you're quickly approaching a timeline for a past or previous OS becoming end of life. And that's really important that you establish a servicing council that will work with those individuals. We have the AIR database where we track applications, but there's also a servicing council meeting that we hold regularly to interface with those users or those application owners.
Your deployment of Office, is it a click to run? And are you managing that through a CCM or just going and letting your users go out to the internet and get stuff?
With the click to run, we install as part of our imaging process. That way, as the updates are released to click to run, they automatically receive those.
So they're getting them from they're going out to the web.
Yes.
For the in-place upgrade, the 80,000 server devices that were completed, was that a zero touch, light touch, or a manual process that the user had to go through?
Well, it's a manual process for the in-place upgrade. It's a Microsoft deployment toolkit deployment. So you launch the application, right? And what it's going to do is it's going to start, for us, it's going to provide a couple of prompts where it's going to ask you a few questions, which will lead you through the entire process. So there is a couple of manual steps, but after that, you know, it goes through and finishes. It's basically built off Windows setup. So. MDT. With our configuration manager deployment, we use IBCM, so task sequences are not available, so we cannot use the task sequences in OSD for config man.
Brad, you mentioned to support the rapid pace of deployment, you had to staff accordingly. What exactly does that mean?
It means that, you know, your infrastructure is going to be going through more change than you would traditionally. So, you know, look at the staffing levels of your SCCM team and determine if you're able to handle updates on, you know, a bi-monthly perspective. I can tell you that our experience from quality of code with Windows 10, it's been outstanding. When you look at the number of incidents and compare the same number of machines to Windows 7, it's as good as or better. So the quality of the code is not a problem. It's transitioning into the servicing model and things that are going to become repetitive, and you've got to be prepared for it. You know, traditionally you don't update SCCM every other month, but in the new model, to take advantage of the new features, you're going to have to change the methodology that you're running those support systems with.
I know in our config file it says deferred. The only thing I can say from my end, I don't manage the Office component, I just install it. But it is set to deferred.
Well, I'll also say that I think from a Windows perspective, we're on Current Branch for Business. On Office, we're deferred, which I think is a terrible name because it is the most recent release that's acceptable for enterprise. So it's a bit of a misnomer. You know, I love the new semi-annual model that they're moving towards and syncing up the servicing model between the two. I like the terminology a lot better, and we'll also, you know, be very happy to get to a common servicing model between both Office and Windows 10.
On the servicing model, on the semi-annual servicing model, have you bought into the idea that you're just going to do it twice a year, or are you considering the possibility of skipping one if it doesn't seem like there's enough bang there? It's not an insignificant effort, even though a lot of it is fairly automatic.
Yeah. We're bought into doing every release, and we are preparing for that. You know, because you never know what's, you know, not only feature-wise, but other things. You know, Brad talked a lot about making sure your SCCM infrastructure and your network is ready for this level of change. Like, you know, maybe there's a few features that aren't as high priority as other things, but you never know when that big security patch is coming, or that big update that, you know, is really going to, that you're really waiting for. So we're prepared for that, and we're prepared to handle every release.
So have you guys haven't had that initial next release yet? I know this process started, but have you gotten to the part where you have users now going to the next release of Windows?
We do, yes. I think the first release we had out there was 15.07. We got them upgraded to Anniversary, and now we're going through the 15.11s. And I think we're fairly far along with the 16.07 update. So it's we're through probably 2 cycles at this point.
I would come back to the application testing and would like to ask how many applications you're going to this testing process with your council, and then what you are offering your application owners that they can test the application, and how do you use then the insider preview approach and so on. Thank you.
So question was for the applications, what kind of work we're doing with them, what kind of process we're following and stuff like that. So I create early builds for them based off MDT, so that they can do some testing. Sometimes the pre-release testing stuff is very minimal, so they will find issues, and that's what I want them to do, is find an issue if they see something. As far as tracking that, I track according to component owners. So if someone has multiple products, they're responsible for multiple products. So I have 25 people that I have on a call, and it manages all of our core apps. So I don't know exactly how many each person owns. I just know that they're responsible for approving either failing or passing. Yes.
How do you handle setting default apps for certain file types and things? Do you request the user what they want to use, or do you sort of force Adobe Reader on them, or you force Edge as PDF Reader or something like that?
Are you talking about in-place upgrade or new deployments? Because for new deployments, as part of our provisioning process, I script that in so that defaults are automatically set for the applications. For in-place upgrade, whatever you have is going to migrate over, so all of those are going to stay the same.
You guys have mentioned the metrics in your rollout are really important. What was some of your experience with those metrics, like especially from an end user support standpoint, like one incident or no upgrades, or like how did it play out? Did it go, did your planning and your execution, did it go in line?
Yeah, I'll comment on that. So if you look at the most common use case for a failure is disk space. And that's really why we developed the readiness checker. Without the readiness checker, our failure rate would be unmanageable. We've brought it down to manageable levels. I really think that the notion of leveraging the new tooling as it comes to what Microsoft's providing, we probably wouldn't build the readiness checker today if we were starting, because there's new capabilities to be leveraged. But that's what we had available to us at the time in order for us to get started. And it served us well. I mean, when you look at the in-place upgrade numbers that we've done, it's significant, and it's taken away from IT effort enabling the end user to do the upgrade. I will tell you that our failure rate's very low on the IPUs. And is it, Chris, it's like 1 or 2%. It's pretty low, right?
Yeah, it's really low. The readiness checker that we built really reduced the calls, right? Because what you don't want is you don't want someone to go through a process, wait to download something, go through the installation, just to fail and roll back. That was the main purpose of really the readiness checker, and then using that to drive your migration so that you get a higher percentage of success.
Yeah, I'll take that one. So the procurement process for workstations is really separate from our Windows 10 efforts. So we have a very robust annual process that we go through in selecting what equipment we're going to provide to our vendors. We do that annually, and part of that process is to enable the distribution of the equipment through the entire globe, basically. So, if we're going to buy HP, we may buy it through a different reseller depending upon the country and the challenges that you have in moving equipment around. So that we'd absolutely address that in our annual process and how we enable the entire ecosystem of countries from an IT workstation perspective.
You mentioned getting your network ready for the large updates. Any insight on what you did?
Yeah, I will tell you from, you have to step back and look at our cloud journey, even before Windows 10. We've gone through 3 network transformations over the last 8 years. We're constantly changing to meet the new demands of the cloud and the consumption model of the cloud. So our architecture has really changed over those 8 years to more and more internet gateways in the offices, break out the traffic and not backhaul it back to the data center. So that's the kind of architecture that we've implemented, and we will continue down that path to eventually the whole concept of having a wide area network very well could go away in the future.
I'll also say that, for our implementation, our configuration manager is set for IBCM. And what that means is there's some different configs on how the updates are passed and how they're handled. So if you are running regular config man and you have DPs inside, you might not see some of the internet bandwidth issues that we see. But if you have something where your configurations are going out to the internet and getting that in configuration manager, you're not at the proper level, you won't get some of the features for direct delivery optimization for express updates. So you might see those cumulative updates quite large. But as you upgrade your configuration manager and the new features come out and start to roll out, you would see a little bit of a decrease on that. But right now, in our configuration, we do see the large bandwidth constraints that are available.
For the application owners that you've worked with, so you go through different updates, did you provide them with test PCs to perform their validation, or were they part of some insider track and they just had to do all their testing on their existing PCs?
Really up to the component owners, but for most of them requested VMs to do application testing, but most of them have multiple PCs, or they have someone who's been identified on their team who can run the early versions. So we provide an in-place upgrade package for them so they can get to the latest version. If there's changes or new CUs, I create a new deployment for them to do some testing.
We are, as some of the capabilities continue to mature, we are keeping a close eye on it. We do work closely with, we have an InfoSec organization that we work with very closely on their requirements. We are looking, we're using Office 365 for DLP. We are still using like Symantec for multi-factor auth, but we are actively piloting some of the multi-factor authentication capabilities in the new Microsoft suite. So it's been an evolution. We've moved for an MDM perspective, we're moving to Microsoft Intune. So I think as the ecosystem grows, and more people are consumers of some of the more advanced security capabilities, that makes our security organization more comfortable because some of these are newer capabilities, but it's definitely a journey that we're headed down.
Yeah, I'll comment. The non-Microsoft components that are on our image, the decision was made at the time when Microsoft didn't have equivalent capability. And we are constantly evaluating the new stuff that Microsoft has and evaluating the business case of the transition costs. That's something that we're constantly looking at the new capabilities, and that's quite frankly one of the reasons why we've got a number of people here to stay in sync with the new capabilities. So my desire is to have no third-party software in our configurations just to make the servicing model work easier. We have one company to go to, nobody else that could get in the way of us being successful with the servicing model. So the vision is there, the capability needs to catch up.
Well, our internal ops folks love the servicing model. No, it was definitely a change in mindset from an IT perspective. I think from a user perspective, they just want those features, and they're used to the change. From an IT perspective, handling change at that level of pace obviously makes administrators very nervous. And that's where some of the things like the servicing council come in, where we could work more closely with a council of people to say, hey, this is something we really need to be concerned about versus this is benign. It's definitely been a mindset change. It has definitely, I think we have added some staff because it is more work, I think, to keep on top of this, but I think it's I think it's just a different way of working, and it's a different mindset. I know when you look at the changes coming, Microsoft provides a lot of venues for all those patches and things that come, and the list is hundreds of things long. And so what we try to do is take a cursory look at it and understand, what are the 3 or 4 things on this list that are really important that may, do have the risk of maybe breaking something that we need to pay very close attention to and start working through the servicing council on, or which of the stuff is relatively benign and low risk. We work pretty closely with our Microsoft account team on that as well.
I agree. Yes. The servicing council, how often do you meet? Is that weekly, bi-monthly? How often do you meet on that?
It's bi-weekly.
Bi-weekly?
Right.
And is that composed of, I guess, your 25 component owners? Is that it?
That is correct. So I hold a bi-weekly meeting. If there's any updates, any new news that I'm going to have, for example, October 17th for the new release of 1709, then I provide those inside that council meeting.
And I'm assuming attendance is mandatory, and if they can't be there, they're supposed to have somebody there in their behalf?
They should identify someone. I mean, there are cases where someone's on vacation or it's around a holiday, so sometimes it falls around that time, but for the most part, get good participation.
How are you guys managing like drivers with the OEM image? I know a lot of times, especially when model refreshes, I mean, BIOS updates and Intel drivers get updated very quickly. With getting OEM devices and just are you pushing drivers down through your task sequence, or have you been happy with the OEM drivers that they're coming with? I haven't been.
Yeah. Somewhat. I will say that the drivers, we try to, for anything that comes directly from the vendor and uses our productivity package and our compliance package, they get those drivers. But if we find that there's an issue and we need to update a driver, we use Configuration Manager to push those down. But in most cases, we usually take what the vendor's providing because they've done the work effort, to make sure that those drivers are ready with the OS that's there. So the first thing we're going to do is put Configuration Manager so we can manage the device, and any changes that we need to make, we manage through CM.
Yeah, the most common situation that we see from a driver perspective is the impact on Skype quality. And that's probably one of the biggest challenges that we have in delivering a robust and high quality Skype environment or drivers. There are a number of drivers that, for certain NIC cards and certain display drivers that just become a problem, and you have to actively manage it and stay on top of it. Don's smiling down there.
I'm going to provide you the best information that I can. I am not the CM guy, but I can say that from the deployment, we aren't using the servicing option within CM. We're using them as updates with collections. We are not using the servicing console within CM. We are using updates and collections to deploy. We have hundreds of thousands of individuals, so we don't want to use the servicing model because then you have so many servicing rings that you have to create. So the collections were already built that we had for our environment for targeted applications, so we wanted to leverage that. Our Microsoft dedicated support engineer, or DSE, recommended the same thing. So we conversed with Microsoft before making that decision.
I'd also add, we were talking about the readiness checker and the pop-up that tells you when you're ready to upgrade. There are still pockets of people out there that are ready to upgrade, but they haven't necessarily done it yet. And so with the pop-up, we've started to get a little more aggressive with how often that pops up and a little more aggressive with the messaging. In particular, our latest round of messaging says that, you're out of compliance from a security perspective. And security is, when we talk about the client information that we have access to, that is the most important thing for us. We love the features, but it's a security lead. And so we actually have gone so far as to tell people, like, you are out of security compliance, and we may take steps in the future to get even more aggressive with that. Especially, I think when we start getting, towards the end of some of the out-of-date releases, we haven't quite got there yet, but once, if we still have people that are using 15.11, when 15.11 is end of support, that's a major security issue, and we will treat it as a security issue.
Will you just flip it to mandatory, just, gave you enough warnings, and then boom, it just goes mandatory? Is that your thought process?
I think we may get to that point. We have not done that yet, because that's obviously massively disruptive, but if we get to a point where someone's on an out-of-date, unsupported, unpatched release, we have to treat it that way.
Yeah, we have built the tooling to take draconian measures to take away people's ability to work if they're non-compliant. That's our focus is to continue to push compliance and make it just part of the way our people work, and understanding that, hey, these things are going to be coming twice a year, and it's expected that you accept them in a time frame that works for you and to take care of it.
And that's working well. I've found that most users fall into one of two camps. There's the set that will click on anything you send to them right away.
Mm-hmm.
And those are great for your security updates, right? Because they get secured right away. But then there's people that will not do anything until you absolutely force them. Yeah. And most of the people, at least where I work, most of the people fall into the end camp. So we do our monthly updates, and we make them available right away. And 10 to 15% of them in the first 2 days are done. Everybody else doesn't happen until the deadline date. Yeah. So do you experience that, or how are you managing that?
I think you're right. I mean, that's a common sort of adoption curve. I think we've done a little bit better than that. I mean, I think there are a lot of people that are eager to use it. We've tried to, through our adoption campaigns and great videos and things, try to play up the new features. And there are a lot of people that want to kind of lead in the new with this stuff. So I'd say I wouldn't say that it's 20% upgraded right away and all the rest wait till the very end. I'd say it's probably reversed. There's a reason why we're not at 414,000 workstations just yet, and we're probably 3/4 of the way done, and I think we got there, we got there relatively quickly. As that number, of people that aren't upgraded yet gets smaller and smaller, those are the people that there are going to be pockets of people out there that aren't going to do anything until we force it, and so that's why, as Brad said, we built it into the process. We haven't had to take that step yet, but I fully anticipate we're going to have to.
Do you account? I think you mentioned that I forget the percentage of millennials.
75%.
So you obviously have a fairly young workforce. Do you think that accounts for the rapid upgrade process?
It absolutely does. I mentioned, this generation, they grew up with a phone in their hand. They, iOS release for their phone comes out. They're the first people to hop on. It's just a different mindset. Keep in mind, the reason that we need to be as nimble and agile as we have is that we want our IT capability to be relevant to the young population. So if they're reading about it, we need to get that capability to them as quickly as possible.
I just want to clarify, if you've got users on, say 1607 or something, are you pushing 1703 to them, or are you just pushing 1703 to people that say have 1511? Or
Right.
Are you pushing that every 6 months to every user?
Now it's there's a difference between whether it's available for people that want to download it and what goes on the new hardware. So as 1703 is ready, which I think will be ready for that within a week or so, that will become the default for what when somebody gets a new PC, that's what they're going to get. So from what our standard is for new PCs, that's always going to be current. In terms of tackling the people that are on, maybe you're not due for a PC upgrade, but you're still on 1511, we'll handle them as those older releases start to go end of support.
So you're not going on a
Right, right. If you're on, you know, once you get upgraded to 1703, we'll try not to bother. We'll make it available if you want to upgrade, but we're not going to bother you again for a while.
Okay. So you're not going to push it every 6 months. You might push it 18 months or the 12 months or whatever.
Yeah, it'll be somewhere in between. Yeah, we don't want to wait till the last minute, but.
Sounds like you've got a very empowered workforce. I'm wondering how do you handle trying to take administration privileges away from users? What do you do about local administrator?
Well, I think from an administration, most of our people are administrators on their PC. We do have pockets that do not have administrated, mostly in like our delivery center locations. So it varies a bit by role. We are using a third-party software product called Avecto that we've rolled out, where if you need to do something with elevated privileges, it pops up with a reminder. That you need to be. What is the reason for this? It's business purposes, and it gives people that's a checkpoint. They need to enter whether it's for what the business justification is for it. So that's sort of the middle ground I think we've taken. So we do empower most of our people. There are definitely pockets of the organization which are very, very focused on specific tasks and things like that are more, they have more lockdown PCs.
Yeah, we're at end of time. I greatly appreciate everybody's attendance. Hope we didn't scare all the people off, but thank you for your time and attendance, and hopefully you found the value of this.